Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement. Your no-hype source for financial advice and making informed choices about your retirement plan. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement. You're live and local, St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show. I'm Jeff Lapidus, president of JBL Financial Services, our office are located in beautiful, sunny downtown Olivet, Missouri. I am a 40-plus year veteran of the financial services area, a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager. And I'm joined by my very able, capable crew. My oldest prodigal daughter, Aaron Lapidus, who is a certified financial planner as well as a wealth manager. And Rob Markham, my son-in-law, who also is a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager, and also the life insurance and fixed annuity sales specialist for our firm.
Good morning.
Good morning. We help our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a real game plan, a step-by-step strategy that has several goals in mind.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate.
Second is to deliver a reliable source of income, one they can rely on, so they can do all the things they want to do in retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their health care needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to couple with their Medicare coverage.
And then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches, or charities, whoever it might be, without Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of their money. And as their wealth managers, Aaron, Rob, and I watch their money every single day to make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us the retirement coaches. Folks, again, good morning. Thanks so much for taking your time and tuning into our 2-hour show. We're going to have a lot of interesting things to discuss today, as we always do. What's more important is what's on your mind. Don't forget to pick up that phone. Give us a call, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. And there are lots of ways that you can keep in touch with us during the week if you like.
That's right. Log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you can click on the Contact Us button. Request a coaching session, financial, Medicare, or both. If you happen to have a question, and it's easier to email than it is to text in, we'll try to get to you during the show, or we'll respond within 24 hours of receiving your email. You can also click on the lower left-hand side of the screen in the pop-up box that appears that says sign up for our monthly newsletter. We call it the Coach's Corner, and we do keep the last 6 to 12 months archived on the website in addition to sending out the new newsletter every single month.
And this month's newsletter has some great articles you're definitely going to want to peruse. The first one being Just Your Average Millionaire. The average net worth of U.S. families surpassed $1 million in 2022. The milestone doesn't mean that the typical American family are millionaires, however. The growth of U.S. families' net income was the largest on record. So that's certainly a good thing. And our next article, 8 Great investing quotes. Investing can be challenging, whether you are a seasoned vet or a novice. It is very easy to lose confidence if things turn south, or to get caught up in a irrational exuberance when the tide is with you. With that in mind, this article leaves you with 8 great investing quotes that hopefully will give you some perspective in good markets and bad. And my personal favorite is know what you own and know why you own it. And especially after the week that we just have, I think that's very present.
That's not one of the 8 ones. Yes, it is? Oh. Okay, I was just focused on Albert Einstein here. Dad, I thought that was your special quote. know what you own, know why you own it, but I guess Peter Lynch said it first. Compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world.
I don't know if Peter listens to the show. What can I tell you?
He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with Albert Einstein.
No.
Absolutely not. He can't argue back with you at this point, unfortunately.
And our next article, thinking of selling your home, don't be surprised by capital gains taxes. The Taxpayer Relief Act of 1997 provided homeowners who sell their primary residence an exclusion from cap gains of $250,000 for single filers and $500,000 for joint filers. But at the time of the law's passing, the average price of a home was $145,000. So what seemed very reasonable and exorbitant at the time has not, unfortunately, the law hasn't kept up with inflation. And what seemed reasonable at the time can be a little bit restrictive. So you don't want to get caught by surprise by capital gains taxes. This is a great article highlighting some examples of how to maximize your exclusions. And it even has a piece in there on people who inherit homes, what they'd be looking at as far as capital gains taxes.
What I really like about this is the hypothetical example that they have in here.
Yes.
Because a lot of people have questions on, they understand that there's an exclusion, but how do you figure that out? I think it's really important that you consult with a tax professional, especially if you've taken advantage of any credits over the course of the life of owning the home, like, for example, like a solar energy credit that actually goes against your basis as opposed to towards the basis, because if you already received the tax break for it, you don't get to recapture it again at the sale of the home. But this gives you an example of, what is the basis in your home? Well, most people know pretty clearly it's what I paid for the house. That's the original basis. But you can have an adjusted basis, meaning you can add purchase costs in from when you originally owned the home, and you probably have those documents still on file, especially if, it wasn't too long ago. And then any additional improvements that you've made to the house, you get to add that to your basis. You subtract out any tax credits you've received for the house over the course of your ownership, and that gives you your basis. You get to add the $250,000 or the $500,000 if you're $500,000 if you're married, and figure out what your tax liability might be.
Absolutely. And our last article, the IRS wants to know more about your gig income. If you earn money through a payment app or marketplace, you may be affected by some tax changes enacted by the 2021 American Rescue Plan. The law requires third parties to report business transactions over $600 per year. The previous reporting threshold was $20,000 and 200 business transactions. This is a timely and informative piece you certainly will want to read if you participate in the gig economy. You don't want to get caught without a chair when the music stops.
Certainly not with the IRS.
And that's our 2024 August newsletter.
It's easy to get. Again, go to our website, jblfinancial.com. Click on that Coach's Corner floating icon. Or if you like, you can always go to the upper right-hand corner and hit the Contact Us section. We're happy to send that to you by email every single month.
That's right. Which
is cool. Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the KTRS text line. So while we're waiting for your calls, as well as your texts, let's talk about a few financial things that are maybe not financial.
Financial things that aren't financial.
Talk about account transfers. We don't talk about this very often, but it's not.
It's like a mechanical thing.
Kind of, but it's not unusual for our new clients to have accounts with other investment advisory firms that they would like to move to us and put them under our management and coaching, which is great. The process of taking over these accounts is really easy to do, but we have to be careful. And easy to do means we have basically a piece of paperwork. It's transfer form. It says transfer from account A to account B, and do it in kind, which means that we're not selling anything. It comes over just the way it is, and there's no income tax ramifications for that. But it can get a little bit more complex than that. So what I want to do is to share a situation that we had last week with Julie and Tom. and they happen to have a non-retirement plan. It happens to be a revocable living trust account, and this could also be a
it's an after-tax account.
Yes, it could even be a joint account if you want to, if you don't have a trust, with a large national firm. Some of the security positions in the account were originally purchased many years ago, about 15 years ago, when they were initially getting married, etc. And they've transferred these securities, these particular funds and individual securities, between several investment firms over the last several years. They hope, so do we, that they'll finally find a long-term place with us. But when we're transferring these assets from one broker-dealer to another, we do, as we say, we call them in-kind transfers, so there's nothing sold and it's a tax-free transfer. However, the current custodian, the people holding those funds, are required by the Internal Revenue to report the cost basis of the shares for each security. And if
they have it.
If they have it, right. And so, as you know, what you can do is look on your statement, and monthly statement. It should show what you paid for the security, what your cumulative cost basis, and then it'll also show typically what we call unrealized gains or losses.
And usually those only appear on after-tax accounts. So if you receive an IRA statement or a Roth IRA statement, simple IRA, even inside of your 401k, you rarely see basis reported because basis isn't what creates taxation in those types of accounts. And I only mention this because I actually received a question from a client a few weeks ago about it when they received a trade confirmation just showing that one security was bought, one was sold and one was purchased. They wanted to know why they didn't see what the original value was, is because it's not required to be reported to the IRS inside of retirement accounts.
Because it's all pre-tax money,
right.
So you're paying taxes when the money comes out, not
Sure.
what happens on the interior. Unfortunately for our particular new clients, Julie and Tom, some of the positions were purchased before the IRS created the rule that custodians have to share the basis information. And so, therefore, there was no cost basis information.
It probably got lost in one of the original transfers over time. Unfortunately, it just wasn't passed along.
Well, and, it isn't unusual because there are really two ways that most people purchase securities. Either they do it through an advisor, or they'll go directly to if it's a mutual fund, maybe they'll go directly to the mutual fund company. They'll purchase that, and they can even do that through an advisor. But what happens is when the money is sitting there with the fund company, they're accumulating the data. But when it gets transferred, at least in the past, it wasn't required that data be transferred. Now it is, and that's happened within the last about 6 or 7 years. Well, where's there an issue? Why are we bringing this up? Well, the problem is that the custodian must report the cost basis at the time a sale is made, and they do that under Form 1099.
Which many of you probably received 1099 DIV if you have a after-tax account, which means even if you've made no trades throughout the year, if you have any dividends or interest, that's reportable on a similar form. So many people are probably familiar with that one.
And so what happens is that if you have a blank there, which these folks did, you're required to then provide the information to the Internal Revenue Service, and you do that on a form that they have for you. Otherwise, you're stuck reporting what the cost basis is. And Aaron loves this one because we know what the cost basis is.
It's zero.
Yikes.
But there's a few things. So one is you can wait until you can knowingly make a sale of a security that you don't have the cost basis of. Now 100% of what you've sold is subject to long or short-term capital gains. Most likely it'll be long-term because short-term's less than a year. You should have the cost basis on that. And then you would have to fill out a separate form, or your accountant would assist you in filling out a separate form to file with the IRS. Or you can request that they manually update your cost basis data at the broker-dealer before the sale is made. So if you happen to have the historical data to back when you purchase certain securities, they should be able to fill in at least a portion or many of the missing pieces before you make those sales, but you have to have the data in order to do that.
Well, look, I know there are some people that are pulling themselves off the floor going, oh, my God.
Well, you would have had to save the trade confirmations from probably upwards, like you said, of 15 years ago.
Well, at least what you paid.
Right, initially.
The other thing is you could, if you kept your records, be able to take a look at prior tax returns that were filed, and you would have that 1099 div, which is showing what those dividends that were declared, and then obviously new shares purchased, and then you could add that to your basis.
Right.
The IRS isn't asking you to actually provide evidence. This is a self-reporting thing.
But if you're audited, then no evidence will be required.
Absolutely, and you want to be able to do that. So,
right.
What's important is, you're not supposed to throw out certain piece of information after a certain period of time. And so, what I would suggest is that make it easy on yourself. Look at your statements, see if there's any holes. It's a nice way of putting it, right?
Right. And we were talking about this morning when we were actually reviewing the statements that we were going to be transferring for Tom and Julie. And it might not be as dire as you think, because on the statements themselves, most broker-dealers will not report any cost basis if any piece of the cost basis is missing. So, for example, if you transferred over assets to a broker-dealer, they didn't have the original cost basis, and you held it there for 10 years just reinvesting the dividends and interest, they will have recorded those 10 years of dividends and interest as part of your basis. They just don't have the original basis. So you'll want to have an extensive conversation with your advisor if you're looking at one of your statements where there's a hole, to see how much of a hole is there.
Now, in this particular situation, we were replacing a long-term advisor that these folks had.
Got you.
So what I had recommended to our new clients is to make their current advisor do a little homework.
That's a good idea.
He should have information, data, possibly records, to be of assistance to them in this situation. Now, it doesn't mean that we really actually wanted to sell something, but what we truthfully wanted to do was to get the data, which we could then give to LPR, our custodian, so they could build the cost basis into our client's account, so that if we do decide we want to make a change, at least the reporting will be cleaner. And that's really what the big deal is.
Absolutely. And the way obviously all of these positions are liquid if even without the cost basis. However, they feel illiquid, not only to us as advisors, but in a lot of cases to clients that hold them, because you don't want to report a zero basis that you already paid taxes on the original investment.
Well, we had a discussion about this, and let's just say that you feel like you're basically going downstream and you're in the canoe and you've got a paddle.
Just building.
What are you going to do, Robin? So we talked a little bit about this, right?
We did, and the one thing that stuck out immediately in my mind was you got to hold these positions and pass them on to your loved ones
at death, right?
At death, because at that point your loved ones will be given that step up in basis, and their new basis will be the price of the security at the time of your passing. Which, I mean, yeah, it kind of stinks that you have to hold it till death, but at least your descendants won't get absolutely creamed by taxes.
Or you won't.
Well, the nice thing is that, again, if they do inherit these securities and they do want to sell them, they will have no taxes, assuming they're sold at basically the same price as a date of death.
I mean, there might be a small gain or a small loss, but it's a far cry from a zero cost basis.
Right. Your cost basis gets wiped away. They get a new cost basis when they inherit them. But there are some things that you can do to
mitigate.
I was going to say get yourself a paddle in that canoe, so I was going to try to continue the analogy. The first thing that I would do is ensure that maybe most accounts are already set up that dividends and interest are automatically reinvested. You might request to your advisor, maybe you want some of your dividends reinvested, have them make your dividends and interest go to cash on the specific securities that no longer have a cost basis? Why reinvest in something that you don't have the original basis for? It'll do a couple of things for you. One, you're paying taxes on that anyway. So if you're receiving income, maybe you start taking some income from that dividends and interest. Or secondly, it'll give you an opportunity to continue to diversify your portfolio, but in a way that will maintain your records properly with new cost basis data.
That's pretty smart. I think another one we might consider is using those shares as donation fodder, if you want to pay your church dues, make other charitable contributions, because when you contribute those shares, they're going to be contributed at fair market value.
So you're making a charitable donation with those shares as opposed to cash. You're donating appreciated securities.
Exactly. And certainly if you're going to, one thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to gift these shares to your loved ones.
During your life.
Right. Because what happens is they inherit those at your basis.
Which you don't know.
Well, which you do
is
know.
Zero.
Right, unless you're building back another basis to that. So either you're waiting until you're gone, or you're basically gifting those shares to charitable organizations during life. And it's okay. In this particular situation, they had multiple positions that were like this. Mm-hmm. And so what we really need to do is to work through this. Obviously, I guess a nice thing to say is they've been accumulators. Mm-hmm. in these shares. So guess what? We'll figure out what is there. We'll try to get a little background information to see if we can build the cost basis back, and then we can certainly make some decisions. But just something to consider, and frankly, folks, look at your statements. Nothing wrong to do that.
Also, the sooner you catch these things,
right,
then you'll have a better opportunity to either get things under control, or you now know that you have a new game plan for some of the things you were already doing. Like you mentioned, Dad, if you're already tithing to church, or you have you've been given a certain amount per year, almost many charities and churches have the ability to accept securities. It's a little bit different of a process, but we've worked with many different organizations locally and nationally that we just get the information necessary. There are some forms to sign, and you can send those shares directly. The great news is because churches, charities, other 501c3 organizations do not pay taxes, you get to take the deduction at the fair market value of the day that you made the donation. So whatever the security has appreciated to, you don't need the basis in order to do this. And when the charity sells the security that you've donated, they don't pay taxes either.
Precisely. Very good explanation. So again, just watch out. It's important to do that, and certainly your advisor should be making you aware of that at the time of the transfers. It's all good.
And sometimes, not every statement reflects it, so sometimes we have to wait till they're received into the accounts with us to see that something is missing, and we can help try to build that back, like you said.
Absolutely. So our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
And with that, I think we'll take our first break of the hour, so don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money.
It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS.
Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, it's 9:30 here on the Big 550 KTRS Talk Radio St. Louis. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
And I'm Robert Markham, your life insurance and fixed annuities sales specialist.
And we are willing, waiting, and wanting to answer your questions at 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. I know that while we were on our break, we got a text in, didn't we, babe?
We did. And our first texter writes, "Hello, I need clarification on the Roth IRA 5-year rule. I've had a Roth IRA for 15 years. I'd like to stop contributing to that one and start a different one with a different institution. I'm 58 years old. Would the 5-year rule be in effect on the new Roth since I've already started one in the past? If I eventually combine these two accounts with the the new institution, does that change anything? That's the only way anything changes.
Right. So you have the first piece correct, which is the 5-year rule is in effect for your new Roth that you've created. However, as soon as you combine it with your old Roth, and it could be at the new institution, you get to take the 15-year look back that you had with your old Roth, combine it with your new Roth, and you'll no longer have to wait from, if you made your contribution today, you would start the new 5-year rule today and have to wait 5 years. The day that you add your old Roth into the new Roth, you've already met the requirement. So the important thing I would say is don't make any distributions from the new Roth until you've moved the old Roth into it.
I don't know why you keep two Roths anyways. I mean, when you think about it, you're going to have two custodial fees. Why do that? Number two is if you're going to a organization that, like ours as an example, that can hold funds or stocks from anybody, why keep them separate? Why even go down that road? I can't imagine.
Text her.
Have a follow-up?
Well, I mean, there are certain custodians, there are certain custodians, we won't name their names, okay?
Because you're not allowed.
Because we're not permitted to, that won't hold, we'll call them mutual funds from certain firms in their accounts. Or as an example, okay, let's talk about if you opened something with Fidelity.
As a hypothetical example.
Then you wouldn't have Vanguard securities in your Fidelity account.
So
as a hypothetical,
the compliant way to say that is, and probably I would guess this might be a reason, which is if you are investing directly with a fund company, they're not going to hold other fund companies' investments. So maybe your old Roth had a particular investment firm. You'd like to move on to some new investments with another firm or with another fund company directly. You might have two Roths, but here's the trick: if you combine them into a third new Roth, at the end of the day, you want everything to be held together. You still get the first Roth's original time frame. So think about the first dollar that you ever invested in your Roth has to be in the account that you make the distribution from.
You're so bright. That's why I called you daughter.
I just thought of that one completely organically there. Well, I mean, I would think that's the best way to think about it. The first dollar has to be there, or the 5-year rule is from whenever the first dollar of that new account was created.
Yeah, again, I couldn't really imagine unless it was something that was proprietary.
Sure.
Otherwise.
Or what if you were holding an annuity inside of your Roth, hypothetically? You couldn't put anything else inside of that Roth. You'd have to start another Roth.
Yeah, so let's have fun with this. So let's say that it was an annuity contract.
Okay. Inside of a Roth.
Not really a smart idea, but it's one that we see insurance agents do all the time.
You are getting spicy today.
Well,
I'm just going to have to...
It is what it is. Truth will set you free. That's why they call it the truth. So how could you get around this? Well, you set up a new Roth.
Right.
But you do a withdrawal.
No.
You do a withdrawal from the annuity contract.
I bet that doesn't work.
And you move that asset, and you move that withdrawal amount, which is from the old Roth money, into the new. Why not?
I think we would have to get additional confirmation on that.
We might have to talk to the Home Office about that.
Yes.
But I don't see why. It sounds legit. No different than what if you were taking 10 shares of an accumulated one and move it over into there and say, okay, now.
So, Texter, if you'd like to share the cell with my dad. Just kidding.
Just so I'm clear, the Roth IRA would not be an ideal place for an annuity contract. I mean, all things being equal.
Well, not really, because you're talking about a vehicle that literally is a tax-free accumulation and distribution vehicle.
The Roth's already a tax-free distribution accumulation vehicle.
That's right, and the annuity is a tax-deferred vehicle, and it's never tax-free. So not really the right place to put it.
And it's the same idea as you don't want to hold municipal bonds inside of retirement accounts because then you lose the tax-free interest that you have available to you. So there are some additional nuances aside from what you buy. Where you buy it is an important piece of it could be an important piece of the puzzle too.
Absolutely. Very good text question. Again, our text line is open. We'd love to hear from you, 84126. Or give us a call. Let's hear your voice, 314-931-5877.
That was it. People are watching the last day of the Olympics. getting excited. I mean, I'm getting sad. The Olympics is like my favorite time every 4 years.
Well, it is for me. And, I love the Olympics. It's great entertainment. It's certainly a source and an opportunity for national pride. And, the expectations are high, which is kind of
Got to win
fun.
lots of golds.
Sort of like the football season that started yesterday. Okay? We won't go there, though. Olympic athletes are dedicated to winning medals for themselves and also for our country, which is really very cool. And, they're intensely training their bodies and their minds for the task at hand. And, training is neither easy nor is it quick, especially to master a skill, a talent, etc. And really, at the end of the day, earning a spot on the Olympic team is really a great honor and an achievement in and of itself. But isn't planning for retirement, your financial freedom, any different?
Time and pressure. For most people, it's a lifelong goal, really, of saving and investing to get you to where you want to be in retirement. We see most individuals have worked at least 30 years before they're ready to consider retirement. And in addition to that, for most people, it's not a straight line. You don't just accumulate. The market doesn't go straight up, as we've seen. And things come up, not just emergencies or even potentially positive things like inheritances, but life comes up. You buy your first home, you are starting a family, you have lots of pressures on your capital at the beginning. So sometimes it's a slower road to start, and you only pick up the pace as time goes on.
And certainly investing environment is not even either, right?
Never is. Well, I mean, if we look from Monday to Thursday, even yesterday, was a little bit of a roller coaster.
You see, but what bothers me about that is that no one talks about, yes, it finally, you had a little bit of turbulence, but we had 20 months of, unperturbed,
growth?
Slow and steady, okay.
No one's ever afraid of positive returns.
Right.
Well, corrections happen. Even, as you said, Aaron, in life, it really never is a straight line. The question that most folks have, and it's not unreasonable, is, have I done all the things I need to do to go for the gold medal?
Are you setting yourself up for success?
Exactly. And, the athletes, they're the ones that do the hard work.
Just like our clients.
But their coaches, and they all have coaches, guide them on their path. And the coaches could be, obviously from high school. They could be professional coaches. They could be parents, whatever it is. But, what's coaching all about? It's about keeping them accountable. It's about motivating them for their success. And sometimes it's about picking them off the deck when they have failures, but really helping them identify as well as overcome obstacles. So you've heard me say this before, and I just really feel that to me it's true, is that if the greatest athletes in the world have coaches, shouldn't you have one too?
Makes sense to me.
Well, it's easy to do. And so, for us, that's why we call ourselves the retirement coaches. It's fun, and if you want to come and visit with us, you're within 5 years retirement. Easy to do, fun and free. Come to our offices, our world headquarters in Olivet, Missouri.
We're, right, the global headquarters.
Exactly, and easy to do. 314-863-0008. Call us, or go to our website, hit the Contact Us section, jblfinancial.com. We're happy to visit with you. Sound good?
I think that does sound good. And you know what else sounds good?
Taking our second break of the hour.
Let's do it.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement right after these messages.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money.
It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS.
Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to our show. We've got the last about 12 to 15 minutes left of this hour before hour number 2, the Power Hour, as I like to call it. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 and 84126 from the Heating Up text line.
And our next texter writes, "Hi guys, love the show. Have a bit of dilemma I was wondering if you guys can give me some advice on. My dad passed away a few years ago and I inherited some stocks he had been holding. When I sell these, how am I taxed?"
It's a great question. You must have been listening to the beginning of the show.
Absolutely. Well, he would be given a step up in tax basis at the time of his father's passing.
Mm-hmm.
So if your dad died a couple of years ago, you'd have to go back and see what the price of the securities was at the date of passing, and that is your new cost basis. And then going forward from there, if you're from that basis, either you'll have a loss or a gain, and that would be what you'd be taxed on.
And as long as, like you mentioned, you said it was a couple of years ago, you've held the security for more than a year, so that means you get long-term capital gains treatment if it was a gain.
Yes.
Perfect.
That's an easy one. Not easy. I mean, the
Wasn't
answer
easy for the person that didn't know.
Well, well, right. Well, I'm saying the answer is easy because the rule's really clear. I mean, and that's one of the beauties, and frankly, is something that Congress, every once in a while they kind of raise their ugly head and want to try to get rid of this step up to fair market value at date of death basis, and this could be incredibly detrimental, not just to obviously our last texter when I have inherited something from Dad, but what if it's a farm property? Could be hugely valued, or even a home, etc. You basically, Mom and Dad, I bought my home for $34,000. Well, it's worth $250,000 now. You inherit that from Mom or Dad. You don't pay taxes on that gain.
Right. You get in that particular case, the process is you get an appraisal on the home, have someone write an estimate as to what they think the value of the home is at the date of your parents passing, and that's your new basis in the home.
It's curious because Rob was talking, our first article in our newsletter was, the median net worth is $1 million. Well, obviously it isn't the average net worth. It's not that, it's that you take all the billionaires and you add them to everybody else and you come up with $1 million, etc. But a lot of people are becoming, and we're meeting them, are becoming the millionaires next door because of their 401ks, because of their IRA accounts, because the value of homes have inflated in price, etc. This tax change or this tax provision for the step up in basis is incredibly important. It's maybe one of the most important ways that you can pass your wealth to the next generation, because we know they changed the laws with IRAs, right? You inherit an IRA from Mom or Dad or Uncle Joe. You got to empty that in 10 years.
Anyone that's not a spouse.
You can't hold it anymore.
No.
But the step up in basis really permits the true transfer of wealth. And you think about it, it's really fair because all these assets that you're collecting, that you're receiving when you inherit, whether it's a home, whether it's CDs, whether it's stocks or bonds, whomever you're inheriting it from, they already pay taxes on that money. That's how they're able to invest it. Why should you get stuck paying taxes again?
And also many people, and we work with many people with those tax rules in mind as to what they're distributing to themselves over the course of their lives, what they're giving to charity over the course of time while they're still alive, how they're dividing assets up amongst children, grandchildren, churches, and charities at their passing. So a lot of planning is involved in the idea that there is a step up in basis in certain assets at the point of our clients or your passing.
Certain members of Congress don't like that.
Well, taxes always seem to be, as you would say, Dad, the political football, because we heard a few years ago from the Biden administration that the idea was now we were going to tax unrealized capital gains, not just taxing capital gains mean when you actually make the sale of the security, but they're going to try to tax before you made the sale of your security because people were doing exactly this. They have highly appreciated securities. They don't want to pay the taxes. They want to pass it on and give it to the kids. It didn't really fly. And maybe I'm a little cynical, but at the end of the day, Congress is made up of individuals, and many of them have relatively large portfolios.
Well, this concept of let's take money from the rich is outdated, because guess what? Everybody's the rich. I mean, that's when we talk about real dollar terms today. It isn't unusual for folks, frankly, when you're taking your home, if you've even reasonably saved prudently over a long period of time, you got hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars. They're talking about you.
I don't understand the the idea of wanting to do they're not starved for revenue up there in Washington. They collect more revenue than every year. It's like record revenue, so it's not a incoming cash flow problem. It's a spending issue, and there's not enough wealth on the planet to satiate these people's voracious spending habits. So, I mean, I don't know. It just seems kind of punitive to me.
Well, the problem is it's like a child that you're feeding candy to.
They just want more.
That's right. They'll eat until they get sick, and then they'll ask you to give them some more. So that's another issue. But again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from text line. It looks like we got our first caller today.
Good morning, Tom.
Yeah, good morning. I was calling this morning. My wife is 63. She had some health issues, and she was just awarded disability. She got a letter stating that she will be eligible for Medicare in October. And what do we need to do to? I'm still working. I still have our health.
Gotcha. So she's been considered to be disabled for 2 years in October, which makes her eligible for Medicare. So Aaron can take over. Aaron Robb can take over from there, right?
Okay.
So your wife is currently on your health insurance, Tom?
Yes.
So I would say the great news is your wife has a couple of options, and she's going to she's going to have those options not only between she's 63 now and 65, but you'll have those options until you retire, which is you can compare what your wife's costs are on your policy, what the benefits are on your policy versus what it would be like on Medicare for her, and she has the opportunity to elect Medicare in October. Or if you find it's more cost effective for her to stay on the plan with you, then she does not have to elect Medicare benefits right then.
Okay. It seemed like I have my insurance through the laborers union, and it seemed like they wanted to know if you were eligible for Medicare. They want to be able to avoid taking the brunt of all the health insurance expense.
So the union plans requested that you enroll in that she enroll in Medicare Part A and B, but stay on the plan with you.
That might be. I haven't spoke with them yet, so.
Well, they'll need to give you something in writing. They actually can't force you to leave.
Well, they can't force your wife to leave, but they can say that she has to enroll in Medicare Part B, and then what would happen is the union plan would become the secondary coverage to the primary coverage to Medicare, and what you would want to do. And so I would still say that it makes sense for once you get clarity from the union, you'll want to do a comparison of the union policy plus Medicare if that's what they require versus if your wife leaves the union plan that through you and just does a straight Medicare with a supplement or a Medicare Advantage plan, just so you can do the math onto what is more effective for your family.
And, we do have an expert in our office, Frank Ellis, who'd be very happy to help you if you decide you want some inside help. You just give our office a call.
That was going to be my next question.
Certainly. You give us
being able to understand all that is...
Sure. So we'll be happy to help you.
My pay grade.
We'll be happy to do a comparison for you. It's 314-863-0008, or you can send Frank an email. It's Franklin, FRANKLIN, @jblfinancial.com. These are important. These are
important.
Thank
you for your call, Tom.
Yes, thank you, Tom. And this is not unusual for folks that, I've got COBRA eligibility. Should I go on? Should I stay on my plan, or do I leave? Should I keep my spot? We're doing these comparisons all the time. And again, what we're looking at is premiums, what your claims could be, out-of-pocket expenses, and comparing those to the benefits under Medicare. And it's fun, and we're doing this every day. So thanks again for your call, and we certainly look forward to hearing from you or other listeners, as it would be.
And our next texter writes, what was the reason for the big drop in the market earlier this week?
It was a normal correction.
He's calling it a normal correction.
It's a normal correction. The markets have gone up for 22 months in a row, and it's time. And every long distance runner needs to take a breath. some people will say, well, we got ahead of ourselves. AI was, we got into some exuberance.
Overbought.
And so it's and frankly, if you take a look at it, we're not marketing analysts. That's not how we get paid. But if you're looking at it, the things that were running fast got beaten down, and other things didn't. So the tech stuff that was really running hot, it was hit harder than other things. So that's why having a diversified portfolio makes sense. Not getting too, and frankly, I think that we had one phone call this week because folks know that we cycle, and again, rebalancing your portfolio makes such a big difference. And not talking about rebalancing necessarily when there's a market dip, but really rebalancing on a mechanical basis puts you in a position where you're sweeping gains off the table, hopefully. You're feeding the losers, and it's a mechanical process. It isn't emotional. And so then you can really, I think, if anything else, reduce the effect of what I like to call animal spirits on your psyche.
I think you bring up a great point about the 22 months prior, and just a couple of weeks before this correction, we were hitting record highs every other day. I mean, you can't be in that kind of situation permanently. It's not healthy for the markets. I mean, we'd all like to live in that world, but it's not sustainable. So, I mean, these kind of corrections actually are better for the long-term growth of the market than, being at that climactic top, I would say.
I agree, and Dad, I think you make the best point, which is I think sometimes, especially when we see very large run-ups, and they tend to be concentrated. I saw a statistic that said this market prior to the last 3 weeks of rotation that we've experienced, because although the biggest drop came Monday, we were seeing some rotation out of those large tech companies into other parts of the market. We were in the narrowest market that we'd been in since just prior to the Great Depression and that market correction. So like you said, Rob, it's healthier for the market for us to see a broader rally, more investment across multiple sectors of the economy versus everyone concentrating into just a couple of key areas.
And the news cycle is certainly heated up, so you might get to a place where people.
It is an election year,
right? Where you're looking to just, as your dad said, rebalance, sweep some of the gains. I'm sure people have been very pleased with how their accounts have performed over the last 20 months. And maybe you're trying to bank some of those gains, completely reasonable. So you're going to see pullbacks like this. But, how many pullbacks have we lived through?
I think, what do they say? There's at least one correction every
2 years.
Right. And we're seeing, I think we see that one every 6 months or something along those lines. But
well, and interesting, the question that I pose to clients, and certainly one that I ask myself very often is, do I believe that this is the highest point the market's going to be over the next 5 years or over the next 10 years? Well, if the answer is yes, then guess what? If you think we're at the high point, you should get out. I don't believe that. I think history has shown that we've, unfortunately, the blips seem to be getting closer and closer together. Okay, it isn't like, well, we're worried about what happened in 1930. I mean, we're now talking about what happened in 99, 2000. 820, etc. So not a problem. And also isn't a problem? Staying tuned to our station, getting hour number 2 of our show. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back after these messages.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money.
It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS.
Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to Straight Talk on Retirement.
You're live and local.
St. Louis's favorite college show. It's time.
Because you care, we talk Medicare.
Well then, we didn't even practice that. It's pretty good.
No, we didn't.
Tell us about Carla.
Let's talk a little bit about Carla. Carla owns her own business. She is a property manager with over 40 properties/units. That's a lot.
That is a lot, and I like that because she's the property manager, not the owner, so not as much liability.
Right.
It's nice.
Her husband, sister, parents all work for the business, so it's really a family affair.
Oh, nice.
Along with 2 groundskeepers and 3 maintenance men, which, when you think about it, kind of makes sense. With that many units, you would need some multiple right, because while you have the A team over here, you may need the B team, over there. I mean, 40 units.
When an AC unit goes out in one of those units.
Oh, a couple weeks ago when we were in the throes of hell. I mean, that was. I mean,
it's almost chilly outside this morning. I think we all have post-traumatic, heat disorder or something.
Get caught up in a hot box and, no maintenance man to come. So
right.
So that's what Carla has going on. That's who she has working for her. And last year, Carla, she made over $300,000 in income.
That's fabulous.
It is. But how Medicare plays into this is Carla is turning 65 in January.
I love a January birthday, not just because we share that, but it makes all the math easier.
And she has no plans to retire. I can't say I blame her.
Mm-hmm.
But she has some questions about Medicare. And her first one is, do I have to enroll in Medicare, or can I wait until I sell my business in a few years?
Well, let's go back. So Carla herself, her husband, you said, her sister, her dad and her mom, 2 groundskeepers, and a maintenance man. So that's 8 people, right?
Yep.
So and 2 assistants, so 9.
So she basically falls into a 2-part question. Does she have to come on to Medicare when she turns 65, or can she wait until she sells her business? And how much will it cost if she has to come on to Medicare?
Right. So going back to why I was talking about the 9 employees, unfortunately, this is going to be a determination made by the insurance company that Carla currently has her employees, her business using. So I would absolutely have Carla call. So if she's using United Healthcare, Aetna for her group health insurance benefits or employer-based benefits, call and see if she's required to take Medicare. The rule of thumb is that if there are less than 20 employees, you got to take it.
I thought that was a hard and fast, like if you had 19 employees, guess what? You have to take it.
So it is not a hard and fast rule because each insurance company gets to decide if they're going to provide more benefits. They can never provide less. They can provide more. And in some cases, the insurance company will allow you to stay on the plan after you've turned 65 years old, even if there are less than 20 employees. However, for everybody listening, if you work for an employer that has less than 20 employees, assume you don't get to keep it. So make the call, get the process going is important.
Because the coverage has to be equal to or better than Medicare in order for you to keep your insurance.
And the way they determine that is unfortunately not how much you like the coverage versus Medicare. Medicare puts a cutoff at 20 employees. It's not really necessarily based on the benefits, but the idea is that the government doesn't want large employers that have significantly more than 20 employees forcing employees off of the coverage and then shifting the risk of coverage onto the federal government. So they put a line in the sand at 20 employees. Carla's going to want to call her insurer to find that out. But let's just assume that they say, yeah, Carla, you got it. You either have to add Medicare or you have to come off and take Medicare.
So employers with less than 20 employees obviously are going to have to come on unless they're given that exception.
Correct.
COBRA, if you're on that, you're going to have to come off and go on to Medicare.
These are other examples of individuals that when you turn 65, you do not have qualified coverage, which means you need to seek Medicare. COBRA, if you're an employer with less than 20 employees, ACA, Obamacare, right?
All are not equal or better than Medicare.
If you happen to be listening to us from federal prison, that is also not considered qualified coverage.
That was a great example. Like you would think that if you're in the federal right, how are you going to be assessed a penalty? Like I'm already being penalized, sir,
with my freedom.
Right, like you really want to kick a guy when he's down, but
absolutely. So first question, most likely Carla's coming off. Second question is how much does it cost, right?
Absolutely.
So give us the cost breakdown.
Well, just for a little bit of sneak preview, according to a May 2024 trustee report, the standard Part B premium for 2025 is estimated to be $185 a month, which would be about a 6% increase over what it is now. It is right now $174.70, but we know that.
So what you're saying, the sneak preview is that the base premium $174.70 might be going up to $185 next year.
It will be going up. They're surmising that the trustee report says there's going to be about a 6% increase, which will leave us at about $185. Now, don't hold me to that. I mean, if it comes out to $187.50, like what Rob said.
Well, also that means, everyone, if the trustee report is forecasting a Medicare Part B premium increase, that should mean that there is going to be a Social Security cost of living adjustment as well.
Oh, so it's not all bad news.
Well, so Medicare and Social Security have what's called a hold harmless agreement. So if you're taking Social Security and Medicare at the same time, which most people eventually do, Social Security says that Medicare cannot raise the premium more than the cost of living adjustment that they are going to provide in any given year. Now, if you are only using Medicare and not on Social Security yet, you don't have access to the hold harmless agreement, so they can raise the premium on you more.
In Carla's case, she will have to pay an income-related monthly adjustment amount, or IRMAA for short, because of her 2023 income being over $300,000.
So why is that? That's because of the Medicare Part B 2-year look back.
Correct.
So first of all, the 2-year look back happens the year you apply for Medicare and every subsequent year that you are on Medicare. So in Carla's case, if she is working this year, if she takes Medicare, in, let's say, January of 2025.
They're going to go back to 2023
and take a look at her income.
Correct.
You mentioned Carla's not retiring in 2025.
Right. So let's say she keeps this going till, say, 67.
Right. So so she's going to have to pay the adjustment in 2025. Now in 2026, when they look back at 2024, she's still working. She's going to have that adjustment to pay. In 2027, if she says, I'm retiring, they're still going to look back at 2025 and see hopefully Carla's just as successful in that year as she was in this past year. They are going to do the look back, but you can actually submit an appeal for a change of life event that says, I'm not making that money anymore. I retired, and they'll adjust you back down to whatever your projected income is going to be.
Definitely going to want to file that appeal process.
Once
you're no longer once you sell the business and once you no longer have an inflated income above $300,000, yeah, that appeal definitely sounds like the way to go.
All right, so we know that most likely Carla's got the income adjustment, so how much is she going to pay for Medicare if she signs up in 2025?
Assuming that the new premium will be, the standard rate will be $185 for Part B premiums, she will pay, given her income falls within the $262,000 to $326,000 range. Exactly. Her Part B premium will increase another $184. So it's like she's paying double.
Got you. And that'll only be until she retires. She can make the appeal.
Right. As soon as she retires and sells the business and no longer is drawing that income, she can go ahead and file that appeal that you were suggesting, and hopefully
drop that premium.
Exactly.
However, there's still more because of Carla's income. She's got another adjustment, right, on her Medicare Part.
Correct. So in addition to the Part B premiums, there's 2-year look back, and they're going to adjust that given your high income. They also do the same exact thing with your Part D, which is your drugs.
The drugs.
You drugs. Need the drugs. Having too much fun this morning. But yes, there's going to be an additional cost. In this case, she'll pay an additional $35.30 for her drug plan.
So that also means if Carla chooses a supplement and a standalone prescription drug plan, let's just say her prescription drug plan's $15 a month. She's going to pay $15 for the premium. Then she's going to pay $35.30 in adjustment. So that means she's going to be paying $50.30 essentially. 50
times 12, $600 more.
Now, if she takes a Medicare Advantage plan and she's paying $0, she's still going to pay the $35.30, right?
Yes, she is, unfortunately.
Right. But you get to cut the premium out, but you don't get to cut the adjustment out. Now, the adjustment looks like it's going to the insurance company for the Medicare Part D, but it's actually just going to the government. It's another tax. So the payment system just looks like you're paying the insurance company extra, but they don't get to keep that. I don't know if that gives anyone solace, but I just like to point that out. I don't think it gave you any solace. That's okay.
So the executive takeaways here is when you if you're a business owner and
or
you have
an employee of a business,
correct, and you turn 65, if you stay on your employer's coverage, you're working for someone that has more than 20 employees, you'll be fine.
Right, no requirement. In fact, we generally recommend that you don't sign up for Medicare if you're over 20 employees. If you're under, want to check, and then you probably are going to have to apply.
Right. That's the executive takeaways here. And the second being, if you're in one of those higher income brackets, it's great for you. Awesome. But on the flip side of that, the income-related monthly adjustment amount is going to do a 2-year look back, and you could be, and most likely will be, subject to higher Part B premium costs. And the additional, if you do a supplement and a standalone drug plan, that will be reflected in that as well.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, we work with quite a few individuals that are business owners, and the math for business owners is very much the same as the math for an individual, because many business owners pay their health insurance through the business. You still have the opportunity to pay these premiums through the business, so finding the most cost-effective way to create coverage for yourself is important. And I think, given that 20 employee cutoff, it still makes sense for everyone to do a review when they get to 65 of where's the better coverage, where's the more cost-effective coverage for myself. And sometimes you're forced into a situation, but if you've got more than 20 employees, if you're working for someone with more than 20 employees, you're not forced into anything, so you have the opportunity to make the best choice for yourself.
And making the best choices is really what we're all about. And, given the changes that are going to be coming down the pike with Medicare, it's never too early to get on that schedule to sit down with Frank, myself, or Erin to go over your Medicare choices that will be coming up in, we've talked about it like it's like far off in the horizon. We're like 8 weeks away.
That's right. So if you're already on Medicare, we're 8 weeks away from the opportunity for you to review your options. If you're turning 65 or you're over 65, still working and on your employer's plan, and you'd like a review like Carla asked for, that can happen at any point during the year. So you can give our office a call, 314-863-0008, or you can go to the website, jblfinancial.com, click on the Contact Us button and say, hey, I'd like a Medicare review, and we will give you a call to get you on Frank's schedule.
And not to leave anyone with a false expectation, but we don't have the new plans yet, and even if we did, we couldn't discuss them till...
Even if we did.
Right, we couldn't, we can't discuss them until October when open enrollment comes around. So, but it's never too early to get on the schedule, because you don't want to be left with a chair when the music stops, because, there's only so many slots, they go quickly, and
That's right, and we can start talking about the new plans October 1st, which means that's the first day we start our Medicare annual enrollment period, or as many people call it, open enrollment meetings, so we can have a full conversation with everyone that comes in to see us.
So, if you're listening to this and you're like, you know what, I'm going to book my appointment now for the 2nd, and I'm going to have them put eyes on all this. This certainly sounds like a plan, and you can give us a call on Monday, and we'd be more than happy to book that all up for you.
That's right.
Good segment.
Thanks.
I don't like the extra premium part.
Oh, no?
I don't like the premium adjustment.
I don't like it either, as the person that pays the bills.
I'm unadjusted by...
You're unadjusted.
What can I tell you? It ain't right.
Well, just have to earn more money then, I guess.
Exactly. We'll show those guys.
Exactly.
Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the KTRS text line. Let's take break number 1 of this hour.
Let's do it.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS.
Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, it's 10:22 here on the Big 550 KTRS. We're back with more Straight Talk on Retirement to answer your calls as well as your text to 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the KTRS text line. Excuse me. I loved that the two of you were talking about business owners.
Yeah.
Love business owners. Been a small business owner for many, many, many years. And I'm very fortunate. I play golf with several business owners of many, many years. And, what's interesting about business owners is they're entrepreneurs. They're focused, not only on profitability, personnel issues, making money, et cetera, and what's one thing that they don't realize in many cases is that the Internal Revenue Code is really your best handbook for success in investing and planning as a small business owner. But I can tell you that most business owners don't take advantage of all the opportunities that are presented by the IRS rules. They can't.
Right.
And typically it's because of a couple of reasons. Number one is
they don't know the rules.
They don't know the rules. And also they're not necessarily receiving guidance on how to take advantage of those opportunities that are out there because they're focused on their company.
Right, they're becoming an expert, having expertise in what they do.
Yeah, so what I'd like to do is share an example today of a discussion that I had with one of my business owner, buddy, client golfers. And it's something that I think you'll find of interest and may even touch a few other folks that are out there that aren't my business owner, buddy, golfer friends. I can't play golf with everybody. What can I tell you? I can't play golf at all, truthfully. But
I bet we could find you the time to play golf with everyone that asks.
Okay.
You know the office number, everyone.
There you go.
314-863-0008.
Very good. So let's talk a little bit about Paul. Paul has a small construction firm. He has about 27 employees, and only 3 of those employees are not members of the union, because we know St. Louis is a big union town, which includes Paul and his administrative staff. Now, Paul's married very happily, and his wife is not working outside the home. He currently has a simple IRA plan. And, a simple IRA is a plan that really is, and we have one in our office too, is one that's designed for small businesses.
With less than 100 employees.
Exactly. And what's kind of neat is that there is no IRS record-keeping documentation, plans to submit, getting approvals, etc. It's a very simple idea. It's really self-directed IRAs that are set up by the company. Employees make contributions. Employers make contributions. So it's simple. You leave the company, you have your IRA, you don't have to roll out of the plan. You just have it, you walk away.
Right, because although you're all part of a simple plan, each individual, the business owner, and each individual employee has their own account versus a 401k is... You think of it as your own 401k account, but the IRS considers it one pool together, a plan, and you're a part of that plan, which means you have to pull your money out in order to have it self-directed, whereas this particular type of plan, you already have an individual account.
So we're sitting at the 19th hole, which, by the way, is the bar. Okay.
Oh, right, because there's only 18 holes.
I was doing them out. I'm like, 19th hole? Wait a minute.
I thought you were going to tell us.
I'm sorry. I have to educate my children. It's okay. So
on the important things.
Yes. And, again, I'm having a Coke float, by the way, which is true.
No alcohol. That's important.
Yes. And that's only because I just don't love the taste. And I said to my friend, Paul, I said, how often does your wife ask you, when you come home, how was your day, honey? And what happened today? Probably happens just about every day. Your mom asks me, what happened today? She usually says, did you see Erin? And I'll say, yeah, I saw her for about 35 seconds.
Did you see me? Where else would I be?
Did you talk to her? And I said, no. Don't talk to her. I don't like her that much.
We only speak on Saturdays.
And he said, yes, she always asks me these things. I say, great. Do you ever share your thoughts about making important financial decisions or even personnel moves with her? Well, of course he does. I mean, all business owners do. I mean, they don't keep it all bottled up. They'll go home and Yeah, this is what happened. That's what happened. I'm having this issue. When there are big, maybe financial decisions to make, hey, I'm going to go out and borrow a ton of money. We're going to have to put up the house as collateral, et cetera, et cetera. It wouldn't be unusual for you to talk to your financial partner in doing that. I said, that's cool. And he said, but I'm making the decision. I said, totally understood. Your wife trusts you, and, you've obviously proven that you're a success, but does she provide you with any type of administrative support to the company where she doesn't get paid? He's like, yeah, every once in a while she'll listen for the phones. Secretary's out, or maybe she'll balance the books at the end of the month, or maybe she'll be involved in payroll, something like that. And I said, well, and you don't pay her? And he said, no.
In love.
Well, that's one form of love. So, my next question naturally was, did you pay federal income taxes last year? He said, well, of course, Jeff. I'm an American. Of course I'm paying taxes. I'm paying personal income taxes, if nothing else. I try to drain the company, et cetera, et cetera. Well, would you like to increase your retirement savings? Yeah, put more money away. Uncle Sam doesn't mind doing that if it's done in a legitimate way. And wouldn't it be neat if we could improve your retirement savings, and also, since your wife isn't actively at work, improve her Social Security benefits? Yeah, why not? Wouldn't that be great? Well, what I suggested to him was, maybe it's time, my friend, for you to put your wife on the payroll. She won't be a union person. She'll be eligible for your simple plan. You could, if you wanted to, pay her $15,000 a year. Not a lot of money.
Why'd you pick $15,000?
Well, because that's pretty close to what the simple IRA contribution rate is for a participant. So you could pay her, defer the whole thing, less Social Security tax, of course. The company could make a matching contribution of up to 3% of her pay, or $450. So in theory, you could have almost $16,000 of your compensation being put away. Because if you think about it, we know that the IRAs, simple IRAs, have limits on how much income can be covered by the plan. So even not necessarily paying yourself more, just take a little less income, move it over to her. She'll be paying into Social Security. She can pay into retirement contribution. Easy way to do it. It's time to put her on the payroll.
Are there other types of retirement plans that small businesses might have that would allow something similar?
Yes, you could do a SEP, Simplified Employee Plan, which basically is really an employer contribution only plan. You put her on the payroll, and you could put up to 25%
of her pay, right?
But you also have to do everybody else's pay.
So that's the nice hook of the simple IRA, is that you only match the matchers, so to speak.
If you want to do that, and the way
Right.
that you do that is you say, we will match up to 100% of the first 3% of your pay contribution. And what's, again, that's very similar to the rules that are under 401ks.
Mm-hmm.
We're calling that the safe harbor, where the employer can put in his, Paul, he could put in his, he could put in the maximum limit. He isn't limited as long as he's making a contribution for those participants. And with a simple plan, you don't have to put in 3% or match 3% a year. You could match 1% 2 of the 5 years. You have to do 3% the other 3 years. But again, not necessarily doing anything different, but restructuring his income so that he could double up on contributions. And it's the cost of Social Security, which, by the way, isn't a whole lot. You think about it, 6% of $15,000, it's about $800. Not too much for a $15,000 contribution. Good deal.
That's a good deal.
Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
Which has heated up,
Woo!
Floodgates.
have opened.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
And our next texter writes, good morning, Jeff, Aaron, and Rob. I retired on July 1st after 48 years at my company.
Congratulations.
48 years. That's a long time.
That's a long time.
It is. I reached my full retirement age of 66 and a half. My company asked if I could work part-time 24 hours a week, which I accepted. You know, we've
Not
heard,
even retired
we've
for a
seen
day.
so much of that. Like, oh, you're retired now. Well, how about you come back?
The man's been the texter has been retired for how long is that?
About 4
30,
weeks. Got 30
40 days. Right, already back at work.
Well, they're smart because they're asking him to come back probably a number of hours, which doesn't make him eligible for the employee benefit plans.
Well,
no.
here's the kicker.
You're trying to jump the gun.
They offered me the same medical coverage that I had prior, minus the dental and eye care. They said I can continue this insurance through December 31st, 2025. Do you feel that I should still look at my Medicare options? Thank you. Yes, I do.
You think so?
I do, because it never hurts to look, and given that they've 86'd the dental and eye care, many of these Advantage plans will cover that, so it never would hurt to sit down with someone like Frank, myself, or Aaron, and have us compare and contrast the two and see which comes out ahead.
I absolutely agree with that. The only caveat I would say is if the employer is covering 100% of the premium, it's going to be hard for us to beat free money, as I like to say. But if they're offering you the same plan, then you might be required to make a contribution in order to receive it. So I would say it absolutely makes sense to take a look because you might find better benefits for the same cost or expanded benefits for a similar cost.
Yeah, our texter didn't mention if he had satisfied any of his deductible up to this point.
Right.
If the answer is he had, what I would certainly do is say, hey, maybe do both, which is continue your plan with the employer through the end of the year. And then let's do an assessment there between what your premium contributions are going to be, what the benefits availability is, and what you're going to use.
Right, especially since January 1st, a whole new plan year for most people.
Exactly, and a whole new deductible year. So, great question.
And our next texter writes...
Oh, wait, we got to follow up. The cost of the plan is $33 a week. So that means if we're doing the math,
$360.
Well, $132.
Yeah, $1,500 a year.
Ooh,
Probably
that's
not.
tough.
Probably not.
You got a great deal for the 40. You're going to make it to 50 years. It sounds like, right? If you go work through all of next year,
yeah.
50 years of
I'm
work.
asking him if he's satisfied to
Ask him.
We're asking.
We'll ask.
We know you're listening. If you have satisfied your deductible, the deal's done.
Yeah, don't make a change.
Yeah, but we'll talk about it at the end of the year.
Yeah, January 1st.
And our next texter writes, when interest earned mature date is reached on a CD and you don't take the money right away, where is that money held until you do?
A lot of banks will put you in the exact same length of a CD that you already had with the new interest rate they're offering. So you generally want to contact the bank. I recommend at least a week prior to the maturity of your CD so you don't get trapped in another one with against your wishes.
And if you're if you're about to engage a bank or a trust company on a CD, it's maybe beneficial to know all this before.
Great
you know
point.
What I mean? What happens when this matures and and I leave the money there? Is it rolled into another CD? Does it go to a simple checking account interest construct? Like, what exactly happens?
Right.
Because I don't know if they're going to, bend over backwards to let you know going into it.
Especially if they get to hold your money longer.
Exactly.
Well, they'll provide you with notification. I think also it gives you an opportunity to really consider, have your financial objectives changed?
Right.
Does the length of this maturity match up with some financial obligation that you have or you're saving for? And certainly, where are we in the rate environment situation? Is this a time maybe to go out to lengthen your maturity with the thought that the Federal Reserve could lower interest rates instead of kicking yourself, over that? So a lot of things to consider.
And our next texter, right? What are the initial IRMA threshold income for 2023, and is it based on modified adjusted gross income or total income?
So, Rob, you'll read us the numbers for individual and married filing jointly. It is based off of modified adjusted gross income. However, there are some additional caveats. So, for example, they are going to add back in if you have any tax-free interest from, say, municipal bonds. That's added back in, so you can't avoid it. So you'll want to check with your tax preparer or, give Frank a call to have him go over the numbers with you so you're not surprised when you get to the payment time. So what is the threshold, Rob, for 2023?
an individual? It is $103,000 or less. You'll pay the standard Part B premium. Now, if you're married filing jointly, it's $206,000.
So essentially, and all those numbers are similar, which is if you're an individual, the married filing jointly number is just doubled. So the initial threshold for individuals, 103.
And then just double that to 206.
For married filing jointly.
And then
Perfect.
the next bracket is 103 to 129, and for married couples it'd be 206,000 to 258.
Perfect. And also the IRS website and the socialsecurity.gov website do have those graphs available for you, so you can go through the whole list of them, every threshold there.
And I'll just give you the next one. It's 129 for individual to 161, or 258 to 322. That unfortunately was the one that Carla found herself into in our Medicare segment.
Got you. So there are different brackets that you'll fall into. If you just exceed the first one, you'll pay a little bit more. As you move through the brackets, it becomes significantly more.
It does. And it tops out at $500,000 for an individual, or $750,000 for a couple.
So that means that if you make $500,000, you'll pay the same amount as Warren Buffett.
I don't know.
There's no difference between $500,000 and above. Anyway, you're both looking at me like...
Well, why'd you bring Warren into this?
Right, exactly. So it looks like, Dad, we have a texter that pays his wife $27,500 for the simple plus a Roth.
Oh, he's throwing the Roth in there too. Good, smart guy.
Right.
Smart guy.
Need to bump up the pay, have your friend bump up the pay for his wife, trying to undercut her.
I've got to get him to go to step one.
That's fair. That's fair. You think we should take our second break of the hour?
Absolutely.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS.
Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to our last segment here of the show. We've got about 15 minutes left. Cool. Thanks so much for tuning in. We love doing the show, and thanks so much for listening. We really do truly appreciate it. And while we're waiting for your phone calls.
And text messages.
314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. Well, let's do an easy one. Let's talk about how we manage money.
An easy one.
An easy one. When folks come in to visit, I've always had this visual that they have their arms wrapped around all of their money. It's like in a big bag. It's like a bag. It's oversized.
It's got a dollar
bag.
sign on it.
Exactly.
Loop
and it's just
bag.
a huge bag. Hopefully it's just like this huge bag, and they've got their arms wrapped around it.
Right.
And, as planners, we don't look at money that way. We really think about it as being in four different, if you want to call them pools or reservoirs, buckets, if you want.
I think we should stay away from buckets only because there's a bucket theory, and that's not what this is.
I like pools.
Right,
Okay.
pools.
They make it sound like it's so much more like you could dive into your pool
like
of cash.
Like from
Scrooge McDuck.
Scrooge McDuck, thank
Yeah.
you, from DuckTales.
Okay, so we have four
You did not like that.
pools of water.
Okay.
One of them is your vault, which is what we like to call your emergency fund, that liquid cash pool that you have available to deal with emergencies and or capital needs, usually less than 6 months. Enough capital in there basically to cover 6 months. How much should I have in there? We say 6 months.
Plus any capital consumption within the next 6 months.
Right. So then we think of it as the income pool. Assets that we specifically designate, and their function is to deliver the stream of income that you need to replace that part of your paycheck that is not replaced by other sources. And then we call it the fun money bucket, which is capital projects, non-recurring needs, and frankly, fun money.
That last car purchase.
Well, or it could be that extraordinary. I'm taking all the kids to Disney. We're finding we're seeing a lot of clients doing these. We're paying for the kids and the grandkids trips, and it's fun because they're making memories.
Right, or they'll pay for the hotel or the house they rent. Everybody just got to get there, or they pay for the whole thing. It's great stuff.
It's great stuff. And then finally, if there's money in excess of the
Those
vault,
3 pools of money.
we call that the growth pool, which is excess assets. It could be available for liquidity, could be available to supplement the other income buckets later, but it's there. So hopefully most folks have what we believe are 4 pools. So let's get real specific for a moment and talk about our very good friends, because we see them so often, Joe and Sally.
Let's talk.
Yeah, so, we visited with Joe and Sally. We've had our coaching session. They've shared their finances with us. And we've determined that their current cash flow needs, the income they need so they can maintain the lifestyle that they have, is going to run about $6,000 a month. Naturally, we increase that net number by 20%, 1.2 if you want to call it, multiplied by 1.2, which tells us that they're going to need about $7,200 a month to make their life work.
That's for the taxes.
Exactly. So that includes taxes. So what we then do is we measure their pre-tax sources of income.
In this case, it'd be Joe's and Sally's Social Security. And Joe will be receiving $2,800 a month. And Sally will be getting half that at $1,400 a month.
And we're saying Sally's doing that because Sally's Social Security income benefits are less than half of Joe's. So therefore, assuming that we follow the rules and Joe elects his benefit and Sally, waits until her normal retirement age, et cetera, we're looking at basically they're going to get in about $4,200 a month. They want $7,200, so they're short about $3,000 a month or $36,000 a year. We believe that the income pool would need to have approximately $900,000 because using a prudent rate of withdrawal of 4%, that would generate $36,000 per year. So that's kind of easy. We also know that because they have a need of $3,000 per month of income, that they're
above and beyond the Social Security benefits.
Yes, that their vault should have at least $18,000, right? 3,000 times 6 months. Certainly, it could be more if it would make them feel more comfortable about having more cash on hand. And I would certainly tell you that anecdotally, the older you get, the more cash you like to have. It just makes you feel warm and safe. It's just like the security blanket. Okay? Trust me, it's true. And it grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. And it's funny, it doesn't matter how much money we're investing for them, but to have that cash available, it's just a big deal. Ask your mother.
It is.
Ask your mother. She'll tell you. They also identified some other needs that they had for us, right?
They did. They identified that new car I was talking about at $30,000 and home repairs at $30,000, which seemed really reasonable.
Yeah, so between those, all 3 of those, which is their income bucket, $900,000, the vault, $18,000, the fund money bucket, $60,000, they really needed about $988,000 of capital. We do know, though, that they had a little more than that.
They did.
We love rock stars.
Joe's savings, pre-tax 401k, is worth $1.3 million.
And he also has a Roth component.
He does. And that has $50,000 in it.
And what's kind of cool about that is that really becomes another pool, maybe to replenish, or that could either be the source or the replenishment of the fund money pool, right?
That's right.
Which is what we see most. Our clients don't use Roth for income. They just don't. Sally has a 403B. She worked for a short period of time. It's worth about $60,000. And they do have some savings, about $90,000, and some after-tax mutual funds they've purchased over the years, about $90,000. So their total asset base, pre- and post-tax, was at $1.6 million. They needed $988,000. So guess what? Their growth bucket was big. They had a big growth bucket, which was really kind of fun. but they also had the assets to meet all their other needs. And frankly, that's the definition of a rock star. Somebody that has the income flow that they need. They have growth. They have liquidity available to them for not only emergencies, but also for short and intermediate term consumption purposes. And in their case, trying to figure out, and we would certainly do this at the time, which is where does it make sense to pull that money from is extremely important. So let's kind of go back to that. We know that at this moment, $7,200 per month is their need, and we're going to certainly fully fund that for them. But that's really under the $96,000 threshold to leave the 11% effective tax rate. So it is possible that when we go to pull money for this car or for the home repairs, we may not take it all from the Roth. Maybe we'll take it from taxable IRA and a portion from Roth.
Or even the credit union savings.
Exactly. So, again, taxable versus non-taxable, taxable versus tax-free.
Right, and this is a reason why we don't see many of our clients, if any, using Roth to generate that monthly income need for themselves, because most clients are underneath that $89,000 married filing jointly of the 12% tax bracket, especially because we know Social Security at the most is 85% taxable at your tax rate. Plus, so when we use Joe and Sally as an example, their combined Social Security benefit plus their $36,000 a year of income only puts them at $78,000 of taxable income. That gives them a nice buffer of additional taxable income before we bump to the next bracket, but it doesn't cover the full $30,000 of the home repair or the new car. So maybe we're using those Roth dollars or the savings vault dollars to moderate their tax bracket over a long period of time. If they were just making monthly distributions from the Roth, they're not going to lower their effective tax bracket on an ongoing basis because they're still going to be in the same spot.
And if you think about it, well, I wouldn't think about it, but if you think about it, which is if you're on the Roth conversion train.
Get off.
There's a stop right here.
I resemble that remark.
Big station. He's happy to accept all newcomers.
Well, you're thinking about, if you were really going to do this, you'd have to say, okay, I'm going to be very careful because, as Aaron mentioned, I've got basically about $8,500 a month, or about $8,000 a month of taxable I can have. I'm looking at $7,200 of what we're taking.
Gotcha.
So how much can I convert without really going into the next effective marginal bracket?
In their case, it's like $10,000.
Right. So it's not. Is it really worth it? The answer is, well, I don't think it's ever really worth it. But no. Well, you think about. I mean, look at these folks' situation carefully. Okay, we're talking about their effective income tax rate on $85,000 or $80,000 of income, plus it's actually going to be like $85,000. It's only at the 11% bracket.
Right, and not
that's
all...
almost nothing. I mean, that's literally almost nothing. If they would have begun to do Roth conversions while they were at work, we know that the effective tax rates had to have been in 20 to 22 to 25, maybe even 30%, because it's on top of their earned income.
That's huge.
Well, it really is huge. And then they've got to let that money sit there for 5 years. They've lost the interest on the taxes that they've paid, and frankly, they didn't even convert the whole amount unless they took the cash out of their credit union or savings,
which
and
reduces.
actually paid Uncle Sam. So they really did a true full conversion. Most people don't have the money sitting around.
Also, why would you want to strap yourself in terms of liquidity, because the goal was to get the money into the Roth, not to just pull it right back out again. So if you're converting and paying taxes outside the Roth, you could be really hampering your own liquidity over a long period of time.
And if you tried to pull this caper on the wrong side of 63, then you'd have to worry about going into those IRMA brackets that we discussed.
Exactly.
Because of the 2-year look back. So
And
there's a lot of like little hurdles here to get through where this would even be feasible from a tax standpoint.
Well, you know, it's just, I mean,
and Roth conversions, you cannot appeal those to the IRS, unfortunately, to reduce your Medicare Part B premiums.
yeah, that's, you know, it's self-inflicted wounds. They don't like those.
Well, you have the money. It's the same idea as if you had a long-term capital gain, and that's the reason you bumped into a higher income-related Medicare adjustment bracket. You have the money to pay, whereas or the IRS sees you as having the money to pay, whereas if you've lost your employment because you're retired, it was voluntary, that's a completely justifiable reason. You no longer have the income.
Well, you know,
I am like the IRS spokesperson.
Well, not to beat this horse anymore, but I will tell you that anecdotally, after 20 years, when I receive a phone call that says, "Oh, Jeff, I'm going to we're doing the kitchen cabinets, or we're buying a new car, and where do we get the money?" My answer is pretty simple. Roth. If you have that, we're going to empty your Roth IRA. I've never heard any pushback.
Because it's tax-free. If you've met the requirements,
right.
You're over 59 and a half, has been in existence 5 years.
Well, I mean, use an example. Just to say, okay, let's just say it's a $30,000 car. And, okay.
So that's like a Camry with 100,000 miles on it now, right?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And so, okay, so what we're going to do is we just pull that out. We'll just pull that from the IRA. So that means we need at least 20%. So we went from $30,000 to $36,000.
And in Joe and Sally's case, they went from the 12% bracket to at least the 15%.
Yes. And the answer is, well, what would you prefer? Let's take it from the Roth. Okay, we'll take it from the Roth. And
Let's take it from the Roth.
And you know what happens? We always take it from the Roth. I mean, we always take it. And when folks come to us with these big Roths, we're like, woohoo, this is great because you have all this flexibility. And a lot of them, many of them maybe they have small other savings, other reserve savings. We don't care because we can easily take money from the Roth, well, assuming it's been in place 5 years or 50 and a half. We can move that to their checking account.
Yeah, those large Roth accounts, when we do see them, they're just, akin to a giant emergency bucket.
I know, and Aaron's thinking,
am I?
Dad, do a Roth. She would love for me to do a Roth conversion.
A Roth conversion.
And as much as I love you, the answer is no. Well,
we can fully accommodate this, and I know all the listeners are thinking the exact same thing that I am.
No.
No.
You want to make a deal?
Yeah, I will generously reduce your pay so you can have enough room, enough space to do the Roth conversion.
You could maybe bribe me otherwise, but it would have to be a multi-generational approach to it. Thank you.
Oh, so the blueberry pie isn't going to cut it? No.
Anyways, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from Dex Line. We've got about a minute and a half left.
And we have a text question on deck.
Next texter writes, I am looking for an advisor who works with regular people. I want someone who will talk to me and not over my head. How would you describe the people that you work with?
Willing to listen to all of your stories, Chad.
They're not irregulars.
No, certainly not.
They're regulars. You know what? They're regular folks, and that's what's fun. They're interested in retiring, spending more time with their spouse if they have them, children, grandchildren, doing the things that they want to do.
And maintaining the lifestyle that they had while they were working.
And that's 100% our goal. I mean, we know that if we fund to 100% of your current after-tax spending, you get to keep your life.
And that's the goal.
And that's why we create a game plan just for you that's it's all about you.
That's right.
So I was going to say, do us a favor. Don't touch that dial. We'll be back next week with some more straight talk on retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. But if you like, give us a call, 314-863-0008. Again, 863-0008. See you next week.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.